All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting for the Village of Somerset. Today is Monday, January 13th at 5:25 p.m. So present in the hall is myself, Chris Duback,
Chris Marino.
and Chief Trepchak has joined us as well.
I don't see,
It doesn't look like
Brian
Ryan's
online.
on Zoom.
Okay. Has anyone heard from him?
I heard that he was gonna be online today, but, I haven't seen it.
Well, mark him absent for now. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the December 16th minutes?
I didn't have any questions, so looked over it. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I will go first as well, so I will second the motion. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. We could have public comment on agenda items.
If you guys wanted to just kind of bring your,
Yeah, sure.
just state who you are and then kind of your address and stuff.
Okay, yeah, John Reeder, and I'm with Courtney Briggs. We represent Village Vic, 325 Garfield Street, Sweetbee, and we live off of 180th. And we just had a couple of small tweaks to the proposed plan that was based on the Hudson ordinance. Just to tailor it a little bit more to the size of Somerset and population area, commercial space and all that. So one thing we were gonna suggest was minimum of 1,300 feet, which is about a quarter mile from another smoke shop or premium cigar shop. Only because it's a very small town the way it is, and 500 feet is less than a city block basically. So that was kind of our main thing. One question we had was, is the distance calculated, from like whether it's from a park or a school, is that aeronautical or is that like a access route?
I believe it was aeronautical. That's the way I was reading it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Joe?
As the crow flies.
No.
From 1.2.
Okay.
basically.
Okay.
So then if this ordinance was to be put in place, would we be grandfathered in to being less of a distance?
You?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're not 750 feet from a park.
Guessing, right?
Montag-Collier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I did have a question about that because there's a long access path. So when I measured it from the park. Should I have measured it from the access path maybe?
So you're talking about within the 500 feet it works, but 750 feet.
The
it wouldn't
seven,
work.
it's listed as 750
Right
feet
now.
from a park,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It's
we're at
like-
like 680
Yeah.
something.
I think it would make sense to grandfather anyone was here
At
prior to
this
the
point,
ordinance.
yes.
For sure.
That was kind of
regardless
the
of distance.
main
Just wanted to
concern.
confirm that.
Yes. From here forward, we look at that a little bit more.
Okay,
Okay. So the 750 was for parks and daycares and pretty much most of everything except the 500 from another smoke shop. So we were gonna suggest 1,300 just because it's such a tiny town. Like if we had a competitor that was on, like let's say Rendezvous or right there, we probably wouldn't last. Just because it's so close and it's more accessible than our location, which is kind of off Garfield and in the corner, So that was the main thing. And then we were gonna suggest one location for every 1,500. So that would make it currently 2 allowable, which there is, and then the third would be after we reach 4,500 population. The town is currently at 3,300.
And what, right now, I was proposing 3 locations per 2,500 population.
For how much?
3 locations?
For,
Oh, sorry, for 2,500 people. 1 location per 1,500 is the proposed. Okay.
Okay, thanks for your input.
I do appreciate this for sure.
You bet. Yeah, thanks for consideration.
Oh, and you had one other question?
Oh, we did, yes.
Yeah.
How are we gonna, so in the verbiage, there's classifying just selling cigars, would it fall under that license? So what regulations would they have to
That
have a
would-
business and sell cigars? Would there be a regulation or?
Just your cigarette and tobacco license that you already have,
Okay,
my understanding.
okay,
Okay, so the restrictions with the smoke shop definition just wouldn't apply, essentially, it's just that part, it would just be a lot kind of loose the way it was with the smoke shop stuff, if it's a premium cigar shop.
Well, how that relates to tobacco, you mean?
yeah, so I guess we were considering, to own a smoke shop, you have to have the cigarette license,
Right.
so we were just trying to differentiate what the cigar situation would be, I guess, because it's kind of thrown in there as its own separate category.
Right. I can double check that, but I believe it was just handled as loose tobacco or rolled tobacco, the same way as you would a cigarette.
Okay,
But I'll double check that before we finalize the definitions to make sure,
okay,
okay? Because there are some gray areas in the law.
yeah.
Okay. Terrific.
Do you guys recognize cigarette or the premium cigar shops as kind of like another smoke shop? Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Yeah, so yeah, if they need the same license, I would just consider it all the same business, just how you decided to go about it is different,
Okay,
It'd be like Live Nation sells liquor, so they need a liquor license and they go about it, so doing it through an event versus a bar doing it, it's
Yeah.
just different. I was just trying to clarify,
yeah,
they would still need a license and how that would operate.
yeah,
Yeah, cause that could be a gray area there.
Right, yeah, you could interpret that.
yeah. And what, do you remember what Hudson says?
It's whatever you guys printed out,
Yeah.
so that cigars, it doesn't really say, like,
Oh,
what license they need to hold, so that's why I was asking.
I gotcha,
Right.
okay,
It's excluded from the smoke shop
Oh, it
ordinance.
is.
Because the
because
cigarette
it's-
license
yeah.
includes vapor products, so then that kind of goes into the smoke shop, but then cigars would be tobacco, so that would need a cigarette license, so it's kind of,
yeah.
Exactly right.
Do you have any suggested wording? Or just include it?
I would probably have to marinate on that.
Sure, I
But,
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to just lump it all together, I
yeah,
mean, that way it's just, there's not endless loopholes,
Mhm,
unless it's very specifically written out what the definition is and
mhm.
what the limitations are.
yeah, like approving a cigarette license for someone to only sell premium cigars, how would we differentiate that out?
Sure,
Unless it was clearly written, or lumping it into
Yeah, smoke shop.
the populace, yeah.
Those are good points.
yeah, thanks.
Any other comments about that, or?
All we have.
I think that's it, yeah.
Great, yeah, we appreciate that. Why don't we set that aside for a moment and move on? We have any other comment on agenda items? And I know AJ, you're going to be, or sorry, EJ, you're going to be discussing the next, oh, you're a little bit further down. Okay. So seeing no other public comment, I'll go ahead and close that portion and we'll open up to new business. Sorry,
No, it's
unfinished business, you're right. Discussion, possible recommendation, review of interim conditional use permit for events, Live Nation. So there was just a small edit that we needed to make. in
Yeah, so
language,
he
right?
was just curious as, it was just basically an edit on the wording. Is that the-
Exactly right.
And I didn't see it in the packets otherwise.
Right.
I would have just shown him that, and he could have.
So the, I'm sorry, would you like to speak on this or should we just go ahead?
Do what you worded it as.
So what was it, what was the, it was just due to the,
See the one I'm sorry.
Oh,
this
you
is
just
the one I
gave it to
just
me.
made to you.
Oh.
So you had no advance warning and I apologize for that.
okay, that's all right.
It has been suggested that the first paragraph is not the way that things actually occur. It's not common practice, current practice.
Sure.
So I have struck the item, that paragraph that's not current, and then I added a
So
So you're good.
Okay, see you, bye.
Thanks, CJ.
Yeah, no, that's,
Did you have any other questions you wanted to? I don't have any.
No, did you have a chance to review?
But everything seems to
Satisfied.
have been working well as
Yeah.
is.
I got some dates for you too.
All right. How many?
Talk to you tomorrow. 19.
All right.
3 for right now.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks, CJ.
Bye, everybody. Nice meeting you.
So now, with the, well, I mean, if you wanted to go down to the next, then I'll talk.
You guys gonna make a motion?
No, it was just, well, recommend, I guess it is recommended,
The ICUP?
yeah.
What do
So
you
I'll
think?
make a motion to, recommend, with the changes that Chris made to the verbiage. And then that would go to the
Forward.
full board.
Right. I will second that motion. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and, sorry, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll go ahead and send this full to the full board then. So now let's discuss the snack shop ordinance. in more
Okay,
detail.
like, for this, do you feel like with the stuff that they brought forward, do you think that we should maybe table this for another month to, or no?
I like the suggestion of the population, but I would like to dig into it a little more, I guess. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. I feel like it's not a ridiculous thing to ask as far as like 1,500 more people for a third one.
Right,
Unless you wanted to change it to, the 45. 4,500 people, or once we reach that to get the third.
I guess I just didn't want, I wanted to leave the door open if
Sure.
somebody wanted to come in. But they would have to adhere to those distance parameters as well, so there wouldn't be a whole lot of,
I suppose,
Places that
yeah,
could-
I
that it would
suppose
be
you're not
possible.
wrong. Yeah.
so. 500 feet, that is pretty close, isn't it?
So,
I-
And if you wanted to, maybe table it for next month and mill it around a little bit more, or
And you need to hurry.
I'm okay with the 4,500.
No. They say you need to hurry, and they
Yes.
said, no. I guess I can just do a brief introductory of like this, kind of the evolution of this ordinance.
Okay.
This came up in a chiefs meeting, where St. Clair County chiefs get together and we discuss kind of things happening in our communities. And Hudson PD kind of highlighted that they had this ordinance, kind of trying to get ahead of things a little bit from a public health perspective. They kind of, it makes sense. I kind of want to put it on here just to kind of get the discussion started, maybe plant the seed a little bit, kind of see how it pans out. Sounds like we have some community support for the ordinance, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
And it sounds like there's some public perception support on Facebook as well, about maybe limiting this as
Yeah.
well. So that's kind of how we got here. And I think, it could certainly evolve into something more specific to Somerset. And I think we tried to do that a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of open to all perspectives on this. Just kind of wanted to see kind of what people were thinking.
I definitely like I feel like 4,500, population to actually start to even think about. And then as we grow, then like the half a mile that they're talking would actually might work then. Like maybe if there was one way out or north of town or whatever, once we start growing, maybe. I guess I feel like, I mean, obviously, I don't know, I guess if I was a big shop, knowing that there's two here already, I wouldn't wanna make one here anyway, but,
Correct.
or, you know.
I mean, end of the day, it's just a quarter mile, so, you know, like, as the town gets bigger, like, that's still
Yeah.
pretty limited, you know? It's-
So I mean, with those parameters, like you said, though, I mean, really, where could they, I mean, they got it locked up, you know,
Right.
both ends.
Yeah, it would be future development for sure. Maybe somewhere, the Somerset Commerce Center, far edge of it. I think that should help. So
So, I mean,
would you like to make motion?
do you want, would you like to have a little bit longer?
Yes, I think that's a
Okay,
good.
I'll
idea.
make a motion to table it for another month, so, we can definitely look into this a little bit further, and we can talk back and forth with the chief. But I'm definitely not opposed to that 4,500 number,
Okay,
and then,
Good to know.
I don't think it'd be unreasonable to include you guys in any future drafts that are
Yeah,
generated,
Absolutely.
just to.
yeah, we appreciate being a part of the conversation.
yeah, we really appreciate you coming down,
Yeah.
you know,
okay, well,
and putting your input in with
Absolutely.
Chris.
yeah,
for allowing us to do that.
terrific. I will second that motion then to table
Yeah.
to the next meeting to finalize the
To
details.
finalize it.
Right,
That sounds good.
okay,
And then if, do you think, I mean, if it's a matter of, I mean, if you guys are busy, we could definitely shoot you an email to kind of say, this is what we're gonna do, and if you guys wanna come down and.
Yeah, we'll probably come back.
Oh, okay,
Just wanna, you know, like, a week heads up or something like that.
sure,
Yeah,
That'd be
absolutely.
perfect, okay. We have a first and a second, any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Table that to next month. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your input.
You bet, yeah. There.
So now why don't we go ahead and move on to the 2024 budget report, or the municipal report. Nothing stuck out to me on the court report.
Either.
It's been discussed already?
Yes.
All right. Then we can move on to the 2024 budget report for the police department. $98.27%.
Yeah, look at that.
That's awesome.
So I think next year things might be a little different. It sounds like there was some last minute changes in the health insurance. With some of our officers, specifically one that was previously not on our insurance has opted to be on it. So, family plan, which is gonna be significantly more, next year, so we'll kind of monitor and see how that shakes out, but, just gonna give you guys a heads up right now.
Sure.
But I'm pleased with how this ended. It's year end.
That is awesome. Good job.
Yes, there's so many different
It's a heck of a
factors.
juggling act, I'm
Mhm.
sure.
I see the insurance is high, and we've already discussed that. So I have no other questions on this. Do you? Go ahead and move on. to The police chief report.
Anything new, bud?
So, yeah, as usual, we got the incident reports from last month. As usual, well, I prepared like a year-end review kind of, on a PowerPoint form here. I shared my screen with Zoom. But, we want to review this one first, then I can kind of get into
Which one?
The incident
Oh.
reports.
Okay.
So this is, specifically December, with the total calls of 126 calls for service.
No,
Yeah. So, and I didn't know if it was gonna be a separate, budget or, agenda item or not, but I do have, I think this committee has asked me to kind of put in something together for overall 2024 numbers.
Right.
And that's what I have here. So I also include this in the packet, which, kind of breaks down the annual calls for service by category. And it's a little bit, convoluted. If you look at like, total accidents versus accidents with injury, those are two separate categories. So if you
sure,
combine them, like we handled 67 crashes,
sure.
it gets really messy when you look at EMS calls. They have close to 7 different categories.
Yeah.
But if you combine them all, it's 169. So anyways, here's the presentation. So overall, we had 3,073 calls for service in the village last year. We had an estimated 48 arrests. It could be more. That's just kind of how our RMS, our records management system, kind of saved it. It would take me a lot longer to dive in to see for complete accuracy. We wrote 297 municipal citations. We had 15 criminal referrals. Sometimes that's when we go on a scene and there's no immediate arrest decision. We refer it to the DA's office. And the DA's office makes the ultimate decision whether or not they're gonna charge out that particular event. So the traffic crashes, that number is actually inaccurate. It's 67 crashes. We went to 169 EMS calls. We're somewhere in the ballpark of 64 court subpoenas where officers were subpoenaed to come in for a circuit court. Typically on your days off and during vacation.
Yeah.
Right?
But some of those may be duplicated where, they were scheduled for a jury trial, they got rescheduled. But that's kind of my rough estimate. And the community events, approximately 11 we attended. I think it's important to point out for EMS calls that, the goal was to get all of us certified as emergency medical responders, which would be kind of one step below like an EMT. So we do have more advanced ability to help folks.
Well, I
during
just
medicals.
know that I've seen it firsthand that you guys are there quite often before.
Yep.
And it
Yeah.
sure does make a difference, I feel.
And I did, credit to Travis, we've been trying to kind of come together and somehow get this kind of co-responder thing down where we are EMR trained, kind of maybe under their umbrella at some point, which we aren't there yet, but for kind of like the medical refresher and stuff. But yeah, we're on duty, we're here, we're usually there quicker.
You are.
Opposed to someone going from their house to the station, picking up
Absolutely.
a rig. And, to credit the fire department, like a lot of their folks, if it's something, wild, like a pulseless non-breather or CPR in progress, a lot of times, they'll respond straight to the scene.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, they've been good to work with. But I think it's worth noting that, that's something that we're pretty involved in.
Yes, absolutely. I've seen it firsthand.
So this is kind of annual calls for service year over year, going all the way back to the year 2000. So you can kind of see a steady, increase in calls for service, specifically post 2020. Which I don't know what the correlation may be, growing population,
Sure.
but so calls for service have steadily increased over the years, reflecting growth in community needs and demand for the police department. So you just see year-to-year growth, 41% increase in calls for service from 2018 to 2022. And then you see, 2024 was, a slight decrease compared to 2023, but still represents overall growth in demand from the prior years. So this is kind of the incident by category and how it broke down. I think I chose like the top 12 here. You know, traffic stops are pretty frequent, high frequent compared to anything else. But those typically take the least amount of time.
Yep.
But it's good to see that, you know, we do have, you know, self-initiated field activity where, you know, we're being proactive on traffic stops. Traffic complaints are obviously, you know, next, second, or behind, EMS calls behind that. But, yeah, just kind of how it kind of breaks down for overall calls for service. These are our top, again, 11 or 12.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of got the impression that where Ryan was going last time about, you know, some people thinking that we work in a small town where nothing really happens. And, you know, that's not really true. Stuff happens everywhere.
Absolutely.
You know, I met some community members who didn't know that we had police officers on duty after 5 PM, after business hours. So, and I kind of get the point where it's like, well, maybe we should document or do a better job of telling our story and kind of what we do here. Because if you're not meeting us, you know, you may not know. But I just also want to kind of point out our staffing levels, because that kind of was questioned at some point too. But, so the historical staffing levels here from, you know, 1990 to 1998, we had 3 full-time officers. From 1998 to 2001, we had 5 full-time officers. Again, we had a lot of community growth during that time. I think one of the 5th officers from that 98 era was hired under an SRO grant. So then I took over in 2020. I obviously recognized the need that we needed more staff. We hired an additional officer in 2021. We used funds from the part-time budget because part-timers were difficult to recruit and specifically retain, just because all agencies are hiring full-time officers.
Mhm.
Doesn't make sense for a new recruit to work part-time for less money with no benefits when there's all these other opportunities to get your foot in the door career-wise. So that's kind of been an evolution of the career. When I started, you had to get part-time in order to get full-time. And there was there was hundreds of applicants for one position. Things have since changed. So, and then in 2022, right around in that same timeframe, we had the office coordinator position vacancy, and we used that budget line item to hire an additional officer. I think it was a kind of a value added thing. We had some technology that is helping us with the record management side. That's kind of helping justify having another officer opposed to a civilian staff member. Obviously Gina is a part-time. Eventually it would be nice to get back to a full-time position in that category. But, so yeah. So it talks a little bit about challenges, you know, transitioning from that part-time reliance, which we did rely on quite heavily as a department, where, you know, at one point we had over 20 part-time officers. And now we really have 0, which is all full-time. And then, recruitment, I think that's recruitment difficulties mirrored, you know, national trends. I think that's as a part-time perspective. I think full-time we're doing very well right now. Like, we're one of the only agencies in St. Clair County who's not currently hiring. We don't have any officers who are on probation. You know, we're starting kind of to build a foundation here, which I think is good. Both from a budget perspective and from a employee wellness and a community wellness perspective. So the FBI UCR data regarding staffing. So I did include like kind of my link to this in the back page, the call for service one. So that just shows you the FBI UCR data that I'm referencing here. And it's from 2019, but national staffing averages, 2019, 2.4 sworn officers per 1,000 population or inhabitants. And then it's 3.5 full-time law enforcement employees. So that includes sworn officers and civilian per 1,000 inhabitants. So if you compare that to you know, the village of Somerset, around 3,300 people. You know, with those averages, we should be around 8.02 full-time officers or 11.7 total civilian and sworn officers. So we're actually lower. We're at 7 full-time police officers right now, including myself. And then we only have a part-time office coordinator, civilian. So, so peer group comparisons, so city with populations under 10,000 average 4.2 officers per 1,000 residents, which would equate to 12.6 officers for Somerset. And the county agencies average 2.8 officers per 1,000 residents, and what that would equate to 8.4. So no matter which way you look at, we're below it. Our staffing is below average, which we're doing okay right now, but I think it's something to, you know, consider. So Osceola, this is a little outdated, and I got some of this information from their push for a referendum, which ultimately failed. But they have 6 budgeted full-time officers. I don't think they've been full staff for some time now. There was discussion about them merging with St. Croix Falls PD, which kind of went back and forth, and I don't think it went through. But so yeah, I mean, then we look at Prescott and Baldwin, successfully staffed with 11 and 10 full-time officers respectively, no reliance on part-time positions. So, I mean, they're just a little bit bigger than us, but you can kind of see their staffing level is significantly larger than ours as well. But that kind of seems to be a good sweet spot for them, around the 10 officer mark. So my recommendation, kind of maintain our current staffing levels, retain that 7th officer, which was in question when it was vacant. You know, start planning for future expansion. I mean, we're getting all these new apartment complexes and developments going in with possibly plans for more. I think it's important that we kind of grow with our community. And I just wanted to plant the seed a little bit about the numbers nationally, and kind of showing you where we compare regionally and some, you know, other departments that are decently sized around us, and kind of the difference between understaffed, appropriately staffed, turnover in Osceola, possibly.
Sure.
Tradition or historically versus, you know, some of these other agencies that are fairly healthily staffed. I think we're doing good though. So adding up the appropriate number of staff would also mitigate burnout. And I think we have some good plans and strategies in place already. You know, with this, you know, neck up, checkup, these officer wellness initiatives. That, you know, all these different programs that we put in place that are, I think is helping with retention. So that kind of concludes my quick year in review.
Cool.
If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
I don't.
Is it possible for you to put this online?
Yeah.
I think that would be great to see.
For sure.
I love the pictures too. That's great.
I found that the new PowerPoint is very user friendly.
Yeah.
So like I'll just drag a photo in, you know, kind of come up with suggestions. But yeah, I'm pretty good at PowerPoint.
That's super. You did, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you for putting that together.
Mhm.
Looks,
Great perspective.
So I guess the only other thing we have is department activities from December. And on December 4th, we participated in the Shop with a Cop. Officer Cooper went over to Richmond, and that was kind of a Christmas themed one. And then December 15th, Officer Weisky and I went to Cookies with a Cop over at the old treadmill. And I think it was sponsored by the Wheelhouse Coffee.
sounded like it went really well.
Yeah, that was fun. They had Santa and Elf there. And then December 16th, I went to a scenario instructor training with Officer Dylan Blumberg, and that's kind of a state sanctioned, you know, for in-house trainings, they want us to do it right, where we're kind of doing these triple checks to, eliminate any type of force on force accidents where someone would accidentally carry a live firearm or live ammunition or live weapon. And it's just kind of more of a liability thing. And I think it's good that we're gonna be kind of doing things by the book for in-house trainings. And then we, December, we kind of finished our neck up checkups where our officers are required to see a mental health professional once a year. And part of our wellness initiative, so we wrapped those up. And that's all I got for December. A good holiday.
Lovely, thank you. Why don't we go ahead and move on to the police and court bills? Looks fine to me.
Me too.
Alright, so we tabled the smoke shop ordinance discussion to February. For future agenda items, do we have anything else?
Other than that, we'll do.
I think that's it.
All right.
And then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Chris Marino, second.
First and a second to adjourn. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned at 6 p.m.